Hi, Paul Sakis, Good News Planet. I'm speaking to Mark Rubinstein. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm okay, Paul.
All right. Well, you would know. You're a psychiatrist, aren't you, or a psychologist?
I'm a psychiatrist, and I hope I would know. Yeah.
I would hope you would know, too. Does psychiatrists have to do self-analysis?
They do, well, to some extent they do. Many of them do go into formal psychoanalysis during their training.
Okay. And that's part of the degree?
Well, it's part of the training process, and, since I've been through 6 years of psychoanalysis, which was many years ago, I maybe know about 3% of what I do.
Oh, yeah. You got by at least, you got me by a lot.
By 2%, okay.
You got me by 2 and 99.9%.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
That 1% though, 0.1%. So, but actually, Mark has a book here called Mad Dog House, a novel. Right? Congratulations.
Thank you.
I see you grew up here in the Brooklyn, New York area near Sheepshead Bay.
I did, and that's where the novel begins. Yep.
I know that, and it goes sort of like we're here in Brooklyn, our studio.
Oh, really?
Downtown Brooklyn, near BAM, near the new Nets.
Oh, I used to be there all the time. Okay.
There you go, and I used to live way out there by not far from Sheepshead Bay, but I grew up in Westchester, and your book has some Westchester thing.
Yes, it does.
Well.
It switches from Brooklyn to the Bronxville and Yonkers area, and then eventually to other venues as well, and of course including Manhattan, where the two protagonists really get involved in a steakhouse.
A steakhouse where they're feeding people.
The place has chops. Yep. They get involved as silent partners, which leads to various complications. One is a surgeon, and the other is an accountant, and they're convinced to go into the chop house business as silent partners, backing a third fellow who's back from the old days in Sheepshead Bay, and that does lead to certain very dire complications and consequences.
Interesting, because it says here, a gripping psychological thriller that raises the question, can a man ever escape his demons of his past? Well, jeepers creepers. Let's say, let's talk a half a second about in life, in that you're a psychiatrist and so on.
Sure.
Can he and can she? Let's say
most
her as well.
It's difficult at best. In the novel, Roddy Dolan's nickname was Mad Dog as a kid, and that's in part why the novel's named Mad Dog House. And it does refer to his conflicts and difficulties as a kid, and something that reemerges when he's an adult. Most of us, you and me included, Paul, we're lucky if we can change. I like to try to visualize personality change as existing on a 45-degree angle, so to speak. If either one of us can maybe make a change in the way we perceive and deal with people in the world, we can make a change of 2 degrees out of the 45, we're doing very, very well.
Okay. And so how, in this situation, in the Mad Dog House, give us a little synopsis then. You gave it some already. What do we learn in a book like this?
Well, the synopsis is the premise is fairly simple. Roddy Dolan grew up in the Sheepshead Bay area, came from a very difficult and deprived background, was known as Mad Dog because he was a Golden Gloves champion, and he got into trouble at age 17 along with some friends and was nearly sent to jail, but the judge took pity on him, which is really pretty thoroughly explained in the novel, and he was given a choice at 17, either enter the Army for 3 years or go away for 2 years, and he picked the Army, and that changed his life. He ended up as a paratrooper and a Special Forces Ranger, and ended up doing, among other things, field surgery, and becomes eventually a surgeon. And over time, by the time he's 40, 42 years old, he's living in the Westchester area outside of New York and is a very successful surgeon. And his best friend from the bad old days is a fellow named Danny Burns, who's an accountant and financial advisor. And Roddy is approached one evening by a fellow who presents himself as being a potential patient, but really comes to see him, and he's from the old neighborhood, and his name is Ken Egan, and he would like to convince Roddy to join up with him and become a silent partner in the chop house, because Ken has been out in Las Vegas at Bellagio, and Nero's Steakhouse and was the manager and has extensive experience. So Roddy discusses this with Danny, and they get involved as silent partners, putting up a certain amount of money, and they become silent partners in this steakhouse. And as I said, I of course don't want to give away too much of the novel. It leads to awesome kinds of complications, and things start to really rocket and roller coaster from there.
Why did you write this book?
I wrote this book because I've always loved writing. I've really made my living by listening to people's stories and trying to help them negotiate their ways through their own life's dramas. And it struck me that I have so many stories just cached away in my mind. And this seemed a very fruitful thing. I have an Army background. I certainly went to medical school. I actually graduated initially with a degree in business and learned how to finance and capitalize businesses. And, of course, they always say you use what you know if you're going to write. So I used some of what I knew and a lot of imagination, and I've always been fascinated by crime stories, The Sopranos and stuff like that. And this is, lo and behold, this leapt from my head. As much as I relied on what I know about life, it still comes out as fiction. Of course, I've always wondered if there's any really true fiction.
Well, is there? Why?
I don't know. People's lives. I've been listening to people tell me about their lives, and the old saw that truth is stranger than fiction is really pretty true.
What would you say is you talked initially about the fact that making change is not such an easy thing, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And moving away from your demons of your past is not such an easy thing.
We call it character armor.
Character armor.
Character armor. It's called that for a very real reason. Yeah.
Aha. Character armor. Let me.
Kind of like iron plates all over you that just keep. We all know people who keep making the same mistakes again and again. The man who falls for the same kind of woman. The amazing thing is that if you talk to most people who've been married, divorced, and then remarry, they end up remarrying a person very similar to the one they divorced. So we do make the same mistakes. A guy named Sigmund Freud called it the repetition compulsion.
Huh, okay. That's interesting stuff. So where from here?
Where from here?
Write another book?
Yeah, I'm actually I just sent off another manuscript to the copy editor at the publisher, and it's called Love Gone Mad. It's about another surgeon, a fellow who falls really heavily for a beautiful and smart nurse at the hospital, and he has no idea of the scorpion's nest into which he's just stepped. Okay.
Is it fine? Having a good time?
I'm having a great time. It's something, I went into psychiatry because I thought, and very truly, that every patient has a story to tell. It's so different from all other areas of medicine, and I love hearing stories and telling jokes too. And I'm having the best time of my life right now.
That's good. So are you living your dream?
I guess you could say that. I mean, there's always something you want to be shooting for, something to look forward to. Otherwise, you the old shark in the water routine. Who was it? Woody Allen said that life is like a shark. If you stop moving, you die. So I'm always looking ahead, looking for something new and exciting to do, and it keeps me going.
And so you love human beings because you are been in the human being business, right?
It is the human being business, and at one point, Roddy Dolan in Mad Dog House does think he may have to go see a shrink, but he decides against that because he's got to do something about this terrible fix he and Danny Burns have gotten into.
Aha. Let me ask you an aside, but it seems to be a very popular aside in the world that we live in, dogs. So you're a dog keeper.
I'm a dog lover and enthusiast. We used to have 4 dogs. We're down to 2 now. I must say, however, Paul, that Mad Dog House has nothing to do with dogs.
I understand that. I understand that. What is it about the dogs? I mean, I'm not saying it because there's so many people that can relate, and I imagine.
You're right, Paul. In answer to that question, what is there about dogs? I must tell you a very quick and brief anecdote. It's the Pueblo myth of creation. Among other aspects of that myth is the fact that man stood alone, and suddenly a wide gulf appeared in front of him, and on the other side of that gulf, that chasm, stood all the earth's animals. And man said, he called across the chasm, "Who among you will join me?" And only the dog leapt the chasm.
Okay.
I love stories.
There's one powerful one.
But that's what they are the most magnificent creatures. I have never seen an ugly dog. Every dog is beautiful in his or her way, and they do have a relatedness to human beings that it just defies description.
Beautiful. I love it. We say the same about people, too. Everyone is beautiful in their own way.
In their own way, or so we hope.
Yes. I imagine it is so.
Yeah.
It's all good. All right. Well, congratulations. And you have a website that people can...
do. It's Mark Rubinstein. That's MarkRubinstein -author.com.
Beautiful. Last question. What's good news for you?
What's good news for me? Good news is any morning I wake up and I feel like I'm not only alive but raring to go. That's good news for me.
Beautiful, Mark. I love it. All right. Thanks so much for sharing good news with us.
Thank you, Paul.
You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.